Welcome back to the conclusion of the Algonquin special. In part 1 of the series, we had a bit of rain on and off for our first 2 days of our stay. When we awoke on the morning of day 3, I was pleased to see that the sun had come out and the ground was starting to dry up. Lexi was also pleased to see the sun out. We both slept pretty soundly without the steady pattering of raindrops on the tent fly. The previous evening came and went yet again without a proper hot dinner because of the weather. So today I wasted no time in setting up for the morning coffee, of course, and getting some comfort food going. My new pour-over coffee brewer makes a delicious cup of joe, and I was particularly looking forward to a hot cup or two this fine morning. There's something just a little special about fixing a hot cup of coffee at camp. You're a little more involved in the process. It's not just a matter of dropping a pod in the Keurig and 30 seconds later you're done. As for the coffee itself, I guess being a proud Bronco owner, I was a little inspired to try the Kicking Horse label. Smartass blend. The new fridge, while running on hydro this weekend, has performed flawlessly. I'm looking forward to seeing how it does with my onboard battery and solar setup on the next trip. There's also something a little special with the pour-over coffee brewing process, watching the fragrant, frothing reaction as the hot water is added. Ah, that first cup of coffee in the morning. There's nothing better. By now, my regular viewers know what's coming next. I promise in future episodes to mix up my breakfasts a little bit. I really don't see myself giving up camp bacon though. Seems Lexi, by now, is all too familiar with the sound of bacon sizzling on the grill, and she's obviously tuned in. She knows what's in store for her breakfast, or at least hopes she knows. She has a healthy appetite typical of a young, energetic dog, but the bacon fat-coated kibble goes down almost immediately. The 2 days of steady rain kind of threw a wrench into our Algonquin itinerary, something you really can't plan around. The idea was to take Lexi on some hikes on 1 or 2 of the corridor trails, but with us already on our last night at the park, it unfortunately wasn't going to happen on this day. But on this beautiful sunny afternoon, I decided to have a break and pop a cold drink and go through some inspirational travel reading. Like I mentioned, the Highway 60 corridor offers many interpretive, self-guided hiking trails, each one showcasing a different geology and features of the park in these wonderful illustrated pamphlets, which are available at the trailheads. If you're interested, at the end of the video, I'll put up some pictures of my previous hikes to some of these trails. But now we both definitely needed to go walk off that breakfast. Lexi was clearly letting me know that she wanted off that leash and was ready to go for a walk. Fortunately for us, our very own Mew Lake Campground has a hike and bike trail running right near the highway. So this ended up being our first and only Algonquin hike. A short walk down the main park road takes you along a field where wild blueberries grow later in the summer. A little farther down the road is the old rail bike trail. This 16-kilometer trail is formed from a discontinued rail line that used to serve the area beginning in 1896. Interpretive panels along the route explain the history of the area. This field was cleared and once used as an airstrip many years ago. Today, you can clearly see that the area was recently subjected to a prescribed burn, a process that helps maintain a healthy biodiversity and habitat for large mammals and also helps reduce the threat of wildfires, where it's a natural, ecological process. The popular Two Rivers store on Highway 60 is accessible directly by the trail, and it's just a short hike from both Mew Lake and Lake of Two Rivers campgrounds, which is just further east down the highway. Because of the popularity of the store and its central location, you're probably much better off hiking or cycling here instead of driving. Parking at the best of times is pretty hit and miss. Vacationers are always tempted by the wild blueberries here in the height of summer, but it's worth noting that it is illegal to remove anything from Ontario parks, and the ministry and park wardens have the authority to issue fines, and they do. Mew Lake is also open to camping throughout all 4 seasons. And it comes as no surprise that at least one tree was decorated for the winter holidays. With that hike over, I worked up a bit of an appetite, and once back to camp, it was time to start an early dinner. So why don't you come join me? This beef dish is served over a plate of rice pilaf with garden fresh sweet peas. While the rice cooks, I add some water and apple cider vinegar to the skillet and lightly steam and pickle the red cabbage. The cabbage adds some texture to the dish and a brilliant splash of color. Setting the cabbage aside, I add the spiced beef and fry it up in the pan. This is a Turkish spice blend, with cinnamon, paprika, and mint being the most noticeable. Such a rich, satisfying combination of flavors. A dash of lemon rind to the rice adds a touch of tanginess. The garlic mayo on top ties the dish together, and a sprinkle of fresh parsley brings balance to the savory beef. For pairing this meal, I pull out a pint of Hockley's Dark Ale. With full round flavors, a creamy head, and a bitter finish, it's a perfect drink for such a rich, meaty outdoor dinner. Absolutely delicious. Of course, afterwards, it's cleanup time yet again, and Lexi eagerly does her part.
Being situated smack dab in the middle of bear country, it's especially important to keep a clean campsite. Attracting bears into the grounds risks habituating and endangering the animal.
With such a satisfying, hearty dinner, I needed an early evening walk, and I think Lexi was on the same page. With her leashed up, we headed back down to the lake again. A family of geese were out enjoying the setting sun. That is, until Mother Goose spotted Lexi from the brush and then sounded the alarm. Off into the water they go. Back at camp on our last night of this day, it was time to attempt our first fire of the weekend. I did my best to try to keep the already damp wood as dry as possible, but burning it was clearly a bit of a struggle. While not a raging bonfire by any extent of the imagination, it was enough to knock the damp chill out of the air and keep comfortable on a late spring evening. And of course, the wonderful smoky smell of a burning campfire just helps bring everything down a level, adding some peace and solace before bedtime. And it must have worked, as we both ended up sleeping in a little bit the next morning. This was the weather we hoped for our stay. I guess it's better late than never. I decided to start the late morning off with an easy brunch, just throwing together some items to snack on. Lexi didn't seem to miss the bacon and bagels. Unfortunately for us, today was our travel day. The end of another wonderful Algonquin experience. Before packing it all in, I went around the site picking up any trash I could find. I've always made this a ritual of camping, leaving it better than I found it. And of course, I carry this philosophy into the backcountry as well, a philosophy I wish more people would adopt.
All packed up and back on the highway. The warm sun and blue skies were a welcome contrast to the rainy beginnings of our little holiday.
On the way in, I forgot to mention in the first episode, just outside of Huntsville, before entering the park boundary, you'll come across the first and last Tim Hortons you'll see on your stay. And I'm sure it probably sees a pretty steady business. We hit it up on our way out, getting a hot coffee and a couple of donuts for the long drive home. I needed to gas up the Bronco for the drive back, so I headed into town. Huntsville has a beautiful, thriving downtown area, and I was tempted to stop off at the Algonquin Outfitters to check out some gear. Maybe next time. Shortly outside of town, and we get on our Highway 11 southbound. This time around, I got off before Barrie, Ontario, onto Horseshoe Valley Road, which takes you over the 400, which is quickly becoming the popular back way north for those of us who live west of the GTA. Apart from the less traffic, the scenery going past the windows is a little nicer as well. Lexi, now most certainly getting used to the Bronco, curled up and fell asleep to the hum of the off-road tires. Another memorable visit to one of my favorite parks, and one I'm sure Lexi will always remember.